When I got a chance to come here, I came precisely because of this word, community. Community engagement is something very close to my heart because I do believe that somewhere in higher education, we sit in our ivory towers and forget what the real world is all about. One thing which I kind of always think of when I watch these small, tiny tots on the stage is there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of power of human imagination in these children. What happens to them when they grow up? What's the change that comes when they enter colleges, the so-called institutions of higher education? From my personal experience, which is more than 2 decades now, as a principal and as well as a teacher, what I can say is that somewhere, we develop comfort zones as we grow up. And we have a certain idea of what the world should be like. And whatever does not conform to our sense or our vision of the world, we conveniently forget that. This is what I have seen in our college. We have students coming from different parts of society, as in all colleges, it is like that. But what we see among the youth is, youth is the most powerful time of your life. It's the most, intoxicating elixir that you can have. There's so much of energy, there's so much of, imagination going on, so many ideas that you think you can have and implement. And yet, how much of it does actually come out? So I believe that as policymakers, as people who are to implement the policies of higher education in colleges and universities, it is our foremost duty to develop this sense of community awareness, community initiatives. I will, of course, give you anecdotes from my personal experience because I think that works best. You can relate to it. There was an Oxford Women's Leadership Symposium in which my topic was more or less what I'm saying here right now. It was making a difference. Women leadership and community development initiatives in higher education. So what do we learn from here? Do we really need community development? Do you think that it should be a part? Isn't it enough that we are churning out people with graduate degrees, postgraduates? We have PhDs. Isn't that enough? Why should there be more? I think there should be. There's something missing. Are we really interested in turning out zombies who have no sense, no sympathy with the world around them? I remember that poem, The Hollow Men, by T.S. Eliot, we are all hollow men with hat pieces filled with straw. Do we want those kind of adults? Do we want those kinds of people in the world? If not, we have to sensitize these young people when they come to our colleges, when they come to institutes of higher learning. It's 2 ways. Do we need community development and why? And secondly, what can we do for it and what it can do for us? Through our practical activities and projects, programs geared towards community initiatives, we have discovered a number of things, very, very interesting. See, when you are leading a college, you have all these academic programs going on, and we want to top in everything, right? But to my mind, education actually is of no relevance if it doesn't make a difference in the world around you. See, if I'm saying I'm a PhD in English literature, fine, that's it. How does it matter to the world around me? Am I able to lessen the suffering of others? Am I able to help the disadvantaged people in the society? Am I able to, harness that energy of the youth and put it where it is needed? For example, recently you've seen the floods disaster. Earlier there was the corona epidemic. Is it enough that I'm a PhD? Don't I need to do something more? There is where you need to sensitize these young people. When I joined the college, we have two platforms of National Service Scheme, which we call NSS. We have NCC, National Cadet Corps. It's an all-women's college, as so many colleges around the world are. But what is more important in India, here in our society, is to bring out that energy in the women students, to develop that confidence where they can look out of their college and see what the world has around them. Number one thing it does, it builds gratitude in them. It brings appreciation of what they have. So when we send our students to slum areas, to underprivileged children, or a very interesting thing that we did was to send them to old age homes. I think it's so important when they go there and they feel what being abandoned in old age means. And they came back all teary-eyed and they told me, we are going to ensure that whoever are the old people in our family or in the families that we connect with, in the families that are around us, will never have to go through that. That is what. So basically, we are building empathy. What is empathy? Your pain in my heart. That is empathy. If I can feel, you fall and I say, ouch, that's empathy. I can feel that. So this is what we need from our students, not just students who have done their BA with honors, who are academic toppers in the university. We need students who have a heart that feels and a head that can think, that can perform, that can create things to help others. Second thing, what does this community development do for us? Does it enrich us in any way? Of course it does. It helps you to build relationships. That is what I always say to all the beautiful young girls in our college. I tell them that, it's not for nothing that they say beauty is skin deep. It's because relationships in life are built with a sense of trust, integrity, and compassion. Nurturing these values is very important. We always talk about value-based education. Saying in theory would be one thing, but practicing it in your daily life is another. So just preaching from a pulpit and saying that, we need students with good values, we need them to be honest, it's not going to work that way. They have to go out in the world and see, what is drug addiction? Why is drug abuse going on? What are the factors that lead to it? And then that helps them to understand. We had, that's what I really want my students to do. We have interactions with people who have fought with these kind of challenges and come out of it. And then the youth, they learn how life is not easy for everybody. Life has so many challenges. And people can, yes, they fall into these drugs and they fall into other problems. But the challenge is not how many times you fall, but how many times you're able to get up. And that is the strength we need in the youth of today. And community development initiatives, engaging with the community, seeing the world at large is very, very helpful. And not only to the community, but in making us wonderful human beings. What we are meant to do. We have not come to this world just, to perform well, professionally, get a huge salary package. That is really not the end of life. And we have seen how in Corona, it was very clear that what are Vedic values, they say, when Krinvantu Vishwamayam, that the whole world is one, or we say in our prayer, Sarbadda Bala, may everybody be benefited. Why is that important? Because we are all linked to one another. There was a wonderful line by John Donne when he said that, there was a culture of when somebody passed away in olden times in the villages, there would be a bell ringing in the church. And when the bell rang in the church, people would ask who died. And that was a signal that somebody's left the world, and they would be asking. And then John Donne wrote, "No man is an island. We don't exist apart from the society. We are all connected to one another." And he said, when one person dies in this world, there's a vacuum that is left, and all of us are at a sense of loss. for that. And he said, therefore, in the future, whenever the bell tolls, never ask for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. It tolls for you. You have lost a soul among the human race. You are also at a sense of loss. I think that connection with the community at large is what is needed. We need to, we need to come out of this menace of social media where we are with the phone, and the phone becomes a whole world in itself, and we keep seeing things, we keep browsing through different channels, and we are not able to get anything. We lose a sense of focus. Yes, social media is a big help too. Everything has its pros and cons, we know that. But then, as I always say to the young parents, that there is no app better than a mother's lap. That is what is required. Mothers need to sit with the young children, read to them, those expressions and that small interactions that go on between a child and the mother. They are what stir a child's imagination. So all these things, they can develop, they can, make you better human beings. But in higher education institutions, I feel it is very, very important, because when your students come out of the colleges and they move into the world, they should be sensitized. They should know that the world needs them as much as they need the world. So it's not that you have to use opportunities all the time. Many times you must realize that the real joy of life lies not in taking, but in giving. And that is what you have seen recently, how in the floods people have just, been over and above everything. They are helping one another without any sense of self. It is a selfless service that everybody is doing. And another thing which I realized as part of the community initiatives was that there are so many socio-cultural factors which inhibit girls or women from coming out and joining leadership roles, because we try to mentor these leadership qualities and among the students. We try to inculcate these values. So what we found was that it is a big sense of anxiety, not only in the students, but later on when they move on to the professional roles. For example, everybody wants to be a teacher. Every woman wants to be a teacher or a college professor. Very few want to be a principal or a vice chancellor, because it involves decision making. So the idea of community service is to give that confidence to the young women so that they do not shy away from decision making, and tomorrow they are able to become very useful citizens, not only of this particular society, but of the world. And I would just end my talk by saying that it's not a serious world all the time. They say that there's a way of saying things like there's a key to it, the key to happiness, the key to success. I would say there is no key to happiness, because there is no lock. The door is never locked. The door is always open. You don't need a key. The key, if ever, is in your own heart. And the more you give, the more you receive happiness in that sense. Thank you so much.